Hi, everyone. Welcome to Chico Steak's podcast, Life Sketches. I'm Melanie McLaughlin, and today I'm visiting with Shayla Watson, who was born and raised in Chico, California. We have a really fun segment in this podcast today where her parents, Mike and Tanya Fogleman, did a previous video recording with a little message to Shayla about the impact that she had on her family.
Hi, I'm Michael Fogleman.
And I'm Tanya Fogleman.
And we are Shayla's parents. And we were asked to discuss how Shayla's coming into our family changed and impacted the dynamics of our family. And that was actually a pretty dramatic impact on our family. We had kind of decided not to expand our family past our 4 children that we had at that time. And our oldest daughter at that point was approaching 15 years of age. And our youngest child, our son, was approaching 5 years of age. And so Tanya and I had thought that we were finished with our family. And then one night, having family prayer, we had a spiritual experience that changed that and was the reason for our deciding to expand our family to one more. And that experience was that we were having family prayer. And while we were having the prayer, I saw in my mind's eye our family in that circle of the prayer, but there was one more person in that circle.
Well, and while he was praying, he stopped suddenly and paused for a very long time and then shared with us what he had just envisioned.
And what I saw in my vision was a little girl that was probably about the age of 7 or 8 years old, braided hair, blonde hair, blue eyes, and glasses, and a little girl that looked like she belonged perfectly by her appearance and her family. And so that was followed by a confirmation that Tanya also had, and was the reason that we expanded our family and welcomed Shayla into our home. That impactful coming into our home didn't stop with her birth. It continued on. Shayla has always been a very impactful person in our family. Shayla has many qualities and traits that are genuine and desired by many. And
when Shayla was little, she was very calming to our crazy, busy household. Very calming effect. And she brought such a joy and love in the home that I can remember even the kids couldn't wait to come home from school and find Shayla. They just, they were drawn to her, and they wanted to hug her and hold her. And I think it was a real special time for our family.
Yeah, very much so. And that seemed to continue with Shayla in her life. I remember when our boys were playing football, for youth football, we'd end up being at the football stadium because they played on separate teams for a good 6 to 8 hours during a Saturday, depending on where they were playing and so forth. And there were numerous times that Shayla would follow us to the stands where we were going to sit, and then she would identify somebody that was of her own age or close to that age that was by themselves. And she, on her own, would walk over to that individual and she'd say, "Hi, what's your name?" "My name's Shayla. Can we be friends?" And then she would engage that child and become their friend for the day. And that was always just an amazing thing to watch from somebody of her age.
And not just her peers, but she had no fear of people at any age. She would talk to adults. She'd carry on conversations. I can remember as a little girl when I was taking one of my kids to college, and of course Shayla had to go everywhere with us, being the last little, what do you call it?
Caboose, family.
Yeah. And my mother, who is from Germany and not a member of our faith, she went with me. She says, "I want to go for the road trip," and we went to take our daughter Stephanie, to college. And while I was getting Stephanie signed up with a bank and doing all the paperwork inside the bank, we were probably in there for about half an hour, 45 minutes or more. And when I came out, my mother said, how did she put it? Do you remember? She said,
this one's going to be okay. She understands her church.
And I said, what do you mean, Mom? She goes, well, I just thought I would ask her a lot of questions about her faith and see if she could answer them. And I believe Shayla was, she was...
7, was she not?
She's 10 years younger than Stephanie, so 7 years old. So Shayla has always has been considered like an old soul.
Yeah.
She would have great understanding and depth of the gospel. It was fun to watch her in her progression and learning and the conversations we had. And we were older parents by this time as well, and so she got a lot of attention and a lot of experiences that maybe the older kids didn't receive.
That experience and that understanding evidence itself at another time that we both remember, and that was we went on a church history tour and visited the sites in Palmyra and then on into Missouri at Far West and on into Nauvoo. And when we were in Missouri, we went to the Community of Christ temple, which is across from the street from some of the other sites for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and we decided to tour their facility there. And it's a fairly large facility with different areas, and we got to walking around. We got separated just briefly from each other, and we were looking for where Shayla was, and we found her in the library of the Church of Community of Christ facility, having a conversation with the librarian and expounding to the secretary in the library about our church's doctrine on topics of revelation received by our prophet, as well as eternal marriage. And we just thought that was so Shayla to take that opportunity to seek somebody out, to have a very enjoyable and engaging conversation with them, and then to share some of what she understood about the tenets of the gospel and those principles.
The other thing that when you mention Shayla to her siblings, they will say, everybody needs a Shayla, because Shayla is always very joyful. Shayla is our peacemaker. Shayla, she is a very positive thinker, and so I think just recently we had a family reunion with our immediate family, and her older sister, who was 15 when Shayla was born, again reiterated, I love being around Shayla because Shayla just is positivity glowing. And I think that's the dynamics that we needed in our family, was some happiness and joy when she came into the family, and how the dynamics changed was because she was such an old soul, yet joyful.
I agree 100%. And one of the things that's always been amazing to me about Shayla is that as she's continued to develop and grow and mature, that innocence and that joy that she has exuded since she was a little child has remained. And it has continued to be a tremendous blessing and an impact on our family in a very, very positive way.
So we're excited to hear what Shayla has to say on this webcast, and thank you for allowing us to share a little bit about our Shayla.
Thank you.
So I want to start today's podcast because Shayla has seen this video segment. So I want to start by asking you, what was your response to your parents' video that they made for you?
Well, it was kind of funny because I was in the room while they were recording it, so I'm trying not to cry and ruin the video. I think they're a little biased because I'm their daughter. They really painted me in a very kind light, but I have the best parents, honestly. I've always been really close with my parents. My mom was my young women's president and my seminary teacher. My dad was my bishop in the YSA ward. So we've had a very close relationship. my whole life. And people always come up to me and say, your parents are the best. They're so amazing. And I go, I know, right? You're preaching to the choir. They are amazing. They have been amazing examples of what it means to be a disciple of Jesus Christ. And I'm lucky I got to be born into the family that I was.
I think that they feel the same way, right? Your dad was talking about kind of having decided not to have any more kids, and then he pictured you in his family, right? So I think that that's a pretty fantastic dad thing to do for him.
And maybe just I'll add a little thing to that story, as he mentioned that he saw a little girl with glasses, and it wasn't until I was 8 years old that I started to lose my eyesight, and I got glasses. So it was kind of a premonition too for my life. I'm not wearing them today, but I do wear glasses.
So I was going to ask you, do you remember very well the stories that they shared about like you being at the football games and talking to kids?
I would say I remember more how I felt at those places. I always felt like really safe and happy. I don't think I remember actually introducing to myself to people or having those missionary opportunities, but I always remember just feeling really happy and having a lot of fun. My parents are so fun. We did a lot of fun things growing up as a family.
Okay. When we have visited, you described yourself as a watcher. It was the word that you used as a young person. So how does that feel that your parents view you as a go-getter, as someone who's just going to embrace people, accept people, befriend people, not a watcher?
It's very motivating, and it kind of makes me think that's how maybe Christ views me. And as someone who maybe I can become and might not be always in this moment, but that I have the capacity to do those things. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that your parents can see you in kind of a little bit better light than you see yourself. I think that's probably true for most of us.
Yeah.
And my last question about this fun video that they did is there was a comment that everyone needs a little Shayla in their lives. What's your response to that?
My sister Stacy is the one who says that to the most, and it's funny because she's actually my eldest sibling, so there's a 15-year age gap between us. So I don't really remember her being in the home, but I do remember she used to buy me a princess Halloween costume every year. So like one year I was Cinderella, one year I was Beauty and the Beast, or I was Belle, from Beauty and the Beast. And now as I've gotten older, our relationship has changed, and it's not so much like she's helping raise me, but more we're becoming friends, which has been really cool. And so it's almost like a friend telling me that I'm a good influence in her life. It just feels really good.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You do have a great family. I love your family. So I would like to hear a little bit from you about what impact your family has had on you. And I know that's a big question, and you've already kind of said a couple of things, but they talked very highly of the impact you had on their family dynamics. So what impact did they have on you?
Well, and I kind of mentioned with my sister Stacy kind of helped raise me, and I feel like all of my siblings played a part in because I was so much younger, and I can look at each of them and see I have a similar characteristic with this sibling, or we have a shared interest in this, and I feel like I'm a mix of all of them, which is really fun. And I have just so many memories of us as a family, like going to the lake and going boating, tubing, water skiing, and we also really loved movies. That was a big part of our family movie nights. My brother Sean and I used to actually pretend to go to the movies. We would pop popcorn and get candy from the snack drawer. And we would use Monopoly money and pretend we were at the concession stand and get our snacks and watch our movie. So I just remember my siblings and I just having so much fun together. And we really enjoyed being together, even though there was quite an age difference. And then, like I said, those experiences, I think, helped shape me to be a positive person. I know my parents talked a lot about that, my positivity that they see in me. And I think that's because of all the joy that surrounded me in my childhood from my siblings and my parents.
That's really fun. So I know that your brothers were closest in age to you. You had two older ones. And did you ever feel like you couldn't keep up with them or do the things that they could do?
Dinner time, I had to get in and eat fast or there was going to be nothing left. And to this day, Alex is like, you need to slow down. You're eating too fast. But yeah, I had to keep up with them with food if I was going to get any.
That's really fun. Yeah, that would be tough to keep up with your brothers on
Well,
that.
they're football players, so they had a big appetite.
Yes, yeah, they are. Okay, so you are 26, turning 27 this year, right? Okay.
Yes.
So as you look back on 26 years of life, what highlights do you see in your life that are important to you?
Well, aside from all my family time that I've already mentioned, I think my first job I had was working at Brain Freeze Yogurt, which is no longer a business here in Chico. It only lasted like 3 or 4 years. But that was a huge learning experience for me to have a big girl job where taxes got taken out of my paycheck and learning customer service and things like that. And I actually got to work with my cousin Olivia. We did that job together. That was really fun. And a lot of members of the church also ended up working there. So that was kind of a fun thing, my first job. I would say, too, probably the biggest highlight of my life has been, well, other than meeting Alex, would be going to BYU, Idaho. And I really feel like in college, I came into my own and learned more about who I am. And then, of course, like I said, I met Alex at BYU, Idaho, and that's led to a marriage full of adventure. We've been to Europe. We ran an inn. We go hiking and camping a lot. So
You ran an inn
yes.
in Europe?
No.
Okay, where did you run the inn?
On the Oregon coast.
Okay.
It was my grandmother's inn. That's my maternal grandmother, and she passed away last year. And she had run the inn for 20 years. And so kind of in between trying to find a more permanent innkeeper, my parents asked if Alex and I would move in. And so for 6 weeks, we lived there, and we checked people in. We cleaned all the rooms. We did some maintenance, got supplies. It was our little inn, and it was really fun. We loved it. We loved being near the ocean, too, and yeah, it was a ton of fun.
And so was that a 6-week stint? Did you stay longer than that, or that was just your fill-in time?
No, yeah, that was our fill-in time, and then that's when we moved back to Chico, and then we started working for my parents' business after
That's
that.
pretty great that you can just jump into such a big job and handle all the different pieces of it. That's fun.
Thank you. I think it's easier for Alex and I because we don't have kids yet, and so we're able to just kind of go here and there and help out where we can.
Work nonstop.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've mentioned Alex a few times. Will you tell us how you met him?
Yes. Well, I guess maybe I'll start the story a little bit before I met Alex. When I first got to BYU, Idaho, I felt like it was a second-rate school. So I was looking for a way to transfer out because all of my friends either went to BYU Provo or they went on missions. So my freshman year was very lonely and depressing. I did not feel like I was enjoying my time there at all. And I actually had applied to another school and auditioned for their music therapy program. And as I was contemplating this big life change to change schools, I really felt like God wanted me to stay at BYU, Idaho, because that's where I was going to learn how to be a disciple of Jesus Christ. And his path for me was to stay there and not go to another school where I might have more of a career boost and have a better job, but that there were things I needed to learn at BYU, Idaho. So I stayed there and decided to go into music because at that point I was a sophomore and I still had not declared a major. So I had to get going on a degree. And I thought, oh, well, I like music. I'm kind of good at singing, I think. And I learned very quickly a music degree is very difficult. And I failed a very important music class. And this class was a prerequisite to all my other music courses. So it put my graduation date 2 semesters behind. And so I had to retake the class. And that was a whole another story we could talk about, learning how it's okay to fail, I guess. But getting to Alex, so when I was able to pass that class and finally resume my music courses, that semester I had 3 classes with a boy named Alex Watson. And that's how we met.
So met in classes, and did you do any study groups together, or were you just familiar with him in the class?
Mostly being familiar with him in the class. We did do some group projects together. Most of the semester was me trying to get his attention and him being completely clueless. So
Okay, so how did he finally clue in to Shayla Fogleman?
we had a mutual friend, and I told her, I was like, I'm kind of interested in him. I think he's pretty cute. If he asked me out, I'd say yes. And he actually brought me up to her, and then she was, oh, you should ask her out, because she would say yes. So he took me on our first date rock climbing. And what I didn't know is that there was another girl he was a little interested as well. So he also took her rock climbing, and whichever girl rock climbed better got a second date. So I won. I rock climbed better.
And do you have a past hobby of rock climbing?
No, I actually have a fear of heights. And at that date, I was really terrified to climb that rock wall. But I thought, I want this to happen. I want him. Like, I already knew pretty much love at first sight for me that I wanted to be with Alex Watson. So I was like, you got to get up the courage and climb this rock wall. And I did.
Did you know that your performance of rock climbing determined a second date?
I did not. He told me after the fact.
Okay. So you just were trying to impress him with these skills
well, I've
that
been
you
working
didn't
the
have.
whole semester to try to impress him. And I finally got my shot. So I couldn't blow it,
So do you guys do rock climbing as dates these days?
Oh, I wish we did. We haven't done that since our first date. But Alex is really big into adventure and outdoors. He loves camping and hiking. And I learned to love those things. That was new for me. I think my parents were in shock when we started dating. And the first time I met his parents was on an 8-day camping trip with his family.
Wow.
So it was a lot.
And your family dynamics growing up, you weren't big campers. You were big football game people and big movie people, but not big campers.
Well, my parents would disagree because they always say, we went camping when you were like 3, but I don't remember that.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, growing up, more day activities, not overnight things.
And did you take to the 8-day camping trip as well as you did to the rock climbing first date?
I think so. I think Alex kind of helped prepare me a lot. And it was also really fun because even though it was a long trip, we were there for the eclipse. And so just knowing that was going to happen was really fun. And it was beautiful and such an amazing experience. So I'm glad we did it.
Yeah, that's really fun. So I want to know a little bit about, so you lived in Chico till you were 18, and then left for college, and you were gone, 6-7 years.
Yeah.
And then you've come back. So I want to know a little bit about your community in Chico as a child versus the community in Chico now. Like, do you see differences? How do you view it? What's it like being back?
Yeah, I would say the main difference is that not as many of the people are here anymore. A lot of people have moved away. But I had really great leaders. You were actually my maid teacher, and you probably don't even realize the impact that a lot of your lessons had on me. So I was really glad we got to do this webcast together. I had amazing leaders who inspired me and who helped me along the way try to build my testimony. So now being back, and especially being in Chico's second ward, some of their kids are now in the youth program, and I get to be their Sunday school teacher and kind of give back that way and serve with them. And then I would say too, my friends all really loved Jesus Christ, even my friends who maybe weren't members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So they were very uplifting as a group, and it was easy to go to Mutual and to go to youth dances and all those youth activities because that's where my friends were. And it was fun, and we liked being together and being there and trying to come closer to Christ. And I definitely feel like that same desire is in the saints that are here now.
So I want to go back a little bit. You get to lead the kids of the people that led you as a youth.
I'm trying, definitely.
What do you do in your ward right now?
So I teach the 11 to 14-year-old Sunday school class.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're a lot of fun.
Yeah. And Do you see resemblances of those kids to their parents, the ones who were leaders for you? Do you see that easily, or how does that impact you as a leader of these kids, knowing that you were impacted by those adults? Really badly worded question, but I think you know what I'm asking.
No, I think that's a great question. It's funny, the first thing that I realize I see in these kids is the physical similarity to the parents. I'm like, oh yeah, you're this person's child because you look just like them. And then it's kind of fun too, when they make comments in class, sometimes they'll share things about their parents. And I almost get like an inside look into my leaders, because when I was a youth, I had a very one-dimensional view of who they were. And then my students share about their families and their parents, and I'm like, I didn't even realize how amazing they were. That I've learned more about them and how great they are. And the kids that they've raised are incredible. They really and I think part of that is the parents, and then also how the youth program has changed since I've been there. And it's really fun to work with them because they teach me, I think, more than I teach them.
That you had mentioned that I was your Mime Aid advisor, and honestly, I couldn't remember in what capacity we worked together, but I knew I was a part of your young women experience, right? And I felt that same way, that I learned as much from that group of young women and from preparing for the lessons. But I think that that's a benefit of a church community, is that you get to share and learn together.
Absolutely.
So what is your favorite thing to do with Alex in your hometown?
Ooh, I have taken him mini golfing over by Cal Skate, because that was a popular place when I was a teenager. I went on many dates there. So that was really fun. It's been fun to take Alex to the lake and show him Stony Gorge. That's our favorite place. And do some of those things that I did as a youth, or like Thursday night market is always really fun. It's hard to pick a favorite.
There's a lot of great things about Chico.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah. What does Alex enjoy about Chico?
I would say he really loves how close it is to so many outdoor things. Every time we go from, Chico or we go and visit his parents up in Oregon and we pass Mount Shasta, he's like looking out the window. He's like, oh my gosh, it's so cool. So he loves all of the opportunities that there are so close by.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've looked backwards at your life, right? Highlights of the last 26 years. What hopes do you have for your future?
I think a successful life to me looks like having healthy and positive family relationships. And then also with that, I would be happy if I'm doing music in some capacity, and whether that's through the church, or I have a full-blown studio of my own, or I'm a music director for a community theater. I'm not really picky, but as long as Alex and I are doing music together, and we have people around us who love us and support us, to me that's a successful life, and that's what I want in my future.
And you currently teach piano and voice lessons, correct?
Yes.
Did you take either of those as a child?
Yeah, I took both. Yep.
From who?
Terry Ogden was my piano teacher. And then I took voice lessons. Her name was Pam, and she wasn't a member of the church, but she actually lives in Sacramento now. And she really focused mostly on Broadway. So I sang a lot of Broadway with her. And that's where my roots are.
Okay. And what do you like to focus on as a vocal teacher?
So far, a lot of my students have been adults. As vocally, a lot of my piano students tend to be younger kids. So I really try to find music that they already know and like, because any genre still needs the same basics of good technique, good breathing, good support, right? But I want to pick songs that they want to go and practice and sing and are excited about learning, that they already kind of know and love. And that really helps spark, I think, a love for music and for singing then.
And do you find any of the songs that they want to do, any of them challenge you vocally?
Oh, yeah. I have one student who likes to do rock and roll, and that's like the opposite of Broadway. But it's, yeah. And so definitely learning different things about ranges and different stylistic choices that you can do to get the sound you want has definitely pushed me. Yeah.
That's really fun. I can't picture you singing rock and roll, so we're going to have to...
That is not my voice type, so...
Yeah, you can send in a video clip of that to add to this. Okay. You had said earlier a successful life for you entails a happy family. You used another adjective there too, and I can't remember what it is.
Maybe.
So what tools do you think you need to create that?
I think a personal life first, centered on Jesus Christ, because you have to have peace within, I think, to be able to have peace with others. And so definitely following the teachings of Jesus Christ is a big one. And then I also think being quick to forgive, because families are forever, and
and you don't want to hang on to ugly stuff for a long time.
Yeah.
Was your family good at that? Good at being quick to forgive?
I think so. I think especially my parents, because they're both converts to the church. And so I know that was really hard because they didn't have a lot of family support. And they've had to turn around and be an example for me of, it doesn't matter what was said in the past. You're family and you love them and you move on.
I love that. Thank you so much for visiting with me today. It's been a pleasure to connect with you again.
It was so fun. I'm glad you asked me.